Question 5, database. A database contains data about athletes and events. Open the 5 list database. If you get the notification at the top here that you need to enable editing, please always click that. 5.1. Open the coaches table and do the following. 5.1.1. Set the default value for the team field to SA. Alright, now the SA, with those single quote marks, you don't have to actually add the single quote marks. It just shows you that's the words that has to go there. So the default value needs to be SA. And you'll see it actually adds parentheses so that it will actually show that precise text. If I then go here and I'll test it, you see it already shows, even though I haven't actually entered anything else yet. It's already the default value. 5.1.2. Set the primary key on the most appropriate field. Now, this one lots of people didn't get right, and it was actually so easy. If you need to allocate a primary key, remember the requirements of a primary key. 1, it needs to be unique for every field. It cannot be duplicated. There can't be any duplicates. And 2, it has to be entered. It has to be compulsory. It can't be something that can be left blank. So what I usually do is I look for the data type. If there's a data type that is auto number, that's perfect for an auto number, since that's perfect for a primary key, since that can't be duplicated and it will always be entered. If there isn't something like that, I usually look for something that says ID or code or something like that. And in this instance, there is one, but it's actually not necessary to guess, because if you look in the description column, you'll see it actually specifies that this is a unique code. So you simply stand anywhere in the field name for code and you click on the primary key button for it to make it the primary key. 5.1.3. Insert an input mask on the code field to accept the following codes. Now, for my class, I put an input mask sheet in their exam folder instead of copying it and wasting paper. So this is what we're going to be working off of. We have this input mask character sheet, and it shows us which characters to use and what description, or what basically it will allow in the space of that character. Now, they've given us 4 varieties that this input mask needs to be able to accommodate. So that doesn't mean I'm going to put this or that. It's not necessary. We're going to put one input mask, and you'll see each of these actually have 5 characters. Do you see that? This one has a space in the middle, but it still has 5 characters. So our input mask is going to be 5 characters long. Do you see that? That's 5 marks anyway. So all we need to do is we need to identify what kind of text we want to be entered in each position. So for the first character, you'll see it's always a letter. It's not always a capital. It's not always a lowercase letter either. So to have a letter be compulsory or required, we're going to use the L. L is for a letter, and the entry is required or compulsory. So let's just keep that in mind. I'm not going to enter it now. You'll just make a note on your paper basically while you do this. The second one is also always a letter. In this instance, it is always a lowercase letter, but they didn't actually allocate a mark for that, and I don't think you have to be that specific. I think if everything was capitals, then you would have had to put your greater than, but I don't think a teacher would have penalized you for putting a lowercase before this second character, because it's always a lowercase, but it's also always a letter, so we're going to use the L for that again. The third position is the tricky one. You'll see there it's a symbol, there it's a number, there it's a space, and there it's a letter. So it can pretty much be anything. A digit is a number, so it can't be that digit or space. It still doesn't allow me for letters. This is a digit or space that's not required. It can't just be a letter. It can't be just a letter or a digit, because it has to have a symbol. or a space as well. So this is the best one we can get, any character or a space that is compulsory or required. So the third character we're going to use is an and sign, or an ampersand is the correct word. All right, fourth character is always a number, and the fifth character is also always a number. Do you see that? So to have a number is a digit, so that'll be a 0 because it is required. So if one of these had, for example, ended and didn't have that fifth number, then the last character would have been a 9. But in this case, they all have 5 characters and the last 2 are always numbers, so it will be a 00 at the end. So let's enter that. It'll be LL ampersand 00. And that's my correct input mask for 5 marks. 5.1.4. Change the data type of the records field to a more suitable data type by checking the description. Alright, so records field. At the moment the data type is number, but the description says, was there a record? So that's obviously a question which has a yes or no answer. So the data type must be yes or no. 5.1.5. Change the field properties of the event field so that it can display a list of options. No options will currently be displayed, and it only counts 1 mark. Please look at the mark allocation and don't waste your time with things if it only counts 1 mark. We just need to change it so that it can display a list of options. So the only thing that was necessary was to change lookup display control to a list or a combo box, whichever one you wanted to use. I see some people were very clever, and I salute you for doing that, and they actually managed to do a lookup wizard and link it to the event table, which was very clever, but it wasn't necessary. It was only 1 mark in this question. 5.1.6. The Commonwealth Games took place from 4 April 2018 to 15 April 2018. Change the properties of the participation date field to ensure that only valid dates can be entered. Ensure that the user is assisted with input. Okay, so I think because everyone saw the word input there, they thought this is an input mask, and it's not. It's about choosing the correct dates. We can change the way that the dates are entered by the input mask. We can change the fact that it is a date by the data type, but the only place we can actually control which dates they can enter, these specific dates for which this event was, this event, the Commonwealth Games, took place from 4 April to 15 April of 2018. The only place we can do that is at the validation rule. So to do that, what I personally do is I go check in my datasheet view if I enter a date, in what format does it display? And yours might be different. I know lots of people's the 2018 stands at the end. I think all the computers in the classroom in our class also have the 2018 at the end. But I'm just going to copy this just like it is and undo so that my little pencil is gone so that I can go back to my design view. But now I have the format of the date. So my validation rule will be, you can write it in 2 ways. The easiest way is to actually say between, and then just type the correct dates here. We want the 4th of April, was it the 4th of April? Yeah, 4th of April to the 15th of April. From the 4th of April, between that and 2018-04-15. Literally just as easy as that. The computer will add the hashtags by itself from 2016, I think. Before that, you need to add it yourself. The other option was to actually write greater than equals to 04 and less than and equals to 2018-04-15. Unfortunately, if you left out the equals to in both these cases, you lost both those marks. You're penalized twice for that mistake. So please read very carefully. Those 2 dates are included because it is from the 4th of April to the 15th of April. All right, and then that last little sentence where it says ensure that the user is assisted with the input means you need to put a meaningful error message here by the validation text. So it can't just be valid dates. I see lots of people did that, valid dates only. what on earth are the valid dates? If someone actually uses this form and they get this message, they put in today's date, and they get this error message, how are they supposed to know what they did wrong? How is the 19th of October not a valid date? They don't know that. So you have to, and please, if you come and test anything, undo until this pencil is gone. Undo, and you actually have to provide the dates that they refer to in your error message. So you'll have to say something like dates has to be between 4 April, or let's just say 4 and 15 April 2018. You have to actually mention the dates, or from 4 April to 15 April, or whatever. This is a little sentence that describes to the user what they are doing wrong and how they should fix it. All right, save and close the coaches table. So save, close, and let's carry on. 5.2. Open the Form 5.2 form and make the following changes. Ensure that the heading athletes appear in the form header. All right, so we go to our design view. But oh my goodness, there is no form header. I've actually never seen this before. But if you just right click on the details section, you'll see there is a part where you can switch on the form header. Lots of people switched on the page header by accident, and you would not have gotten a mark for that. You have to switch on the form header and then enter the word athlete in a label, not in a text box, correct? A text box is to contain values that it gets from the database. So for example, these sides you'll see are text boxes, these sides are labels, because the one on the right hand side actually changes with each record. So a text box is always dynamic. It contains field references or formulas or something like that. If I want to enter static text, I need to use a label. Click and athletes. You'll see the label grows however big I need it to be as I type. Add the image 5mascot.png finding or examination folder as background to the form. Alright, so it has to be a background to the entire form. Now, I see there's some people get different interesting ways of doing this, but basically what you need to do is you need to have your property sheet switched on. So if it wasn't switched on already, you can either right click here and choose form properties, or in your design, on your design tab, switch on property sheet. Now, ensure that your selection is actually the entire form and not just a specific label or a specific section. You'll see it shows form header. I want the entire form to be selected. And then I can choose here picture, and I can go choose it and find it over here. 5 mascot. There you go. It's the background of the form. Next, change the event field to a combo box that will use the values provided in the event table. Ensure that athletics displays as one of the options. All right, so that's a tricky one. Let's see. So the event text box, we're on the text box side. We need to change to a combo box. They said, hey, yes. Right click, change to combo box. Now, if you inserted a new one over here, I know one can do it somewhere here, combo box, you get no marks. Trust me, don't do it. Just do it the right way. Right click, change to combo box. That was so easy. Now, the next part is where the difficulty comes in. What we want to do is we want to change where it gets the values that it displays in this little box. So that's the data. That's the data tab, in other words. So the row source type is a table. We want to link this to a table. We don't want to type our own values. We want it to be a table. And then the row source that we actually want, or which table we want, is the events table. There you go. And now if I go to my form view you'll see it actually shows me the values that are in the event table. But they said that we need to ensure that that athletics show as one of these values, and it's not showing as a value at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this or save this, go to the event tab, or to the event table, sorry, and add the value athletics over there. Save. Now, I think, let's test. Yeah, it doesn't work yet. I actually have to close and open my form again before it will work. You see there it shows athletics. So because I'm linking it to the table, I need to go update the value in the table itself. 5.3. Create a query called query 5.3 based on the athlete table. Athlete table. Create. Now I prefer always using the wizard. It just makes it consistent whether I'm doing a form, a report, or a query. So query wizard. Display only the athlete and the gender of the athlete. All right, let's just double check. Okay, I'm using the correct table. They said the gender and the athlete's name. Athlete and the gender of the athlete. Okay, so it's for those two. Sort the query in descending order according to the athletes. Display all the athletes that participated in swimming who has set a record. All right, so that's a problem because we're not going to get those answers from athlete and gender. We actually need to know the event and the records as well. But if you're not sure, let's just go check. Let's just open this up and see. Event. The event field contains the value of which sport they did, or which event they did, and record shows whether it was a record or not. So let's go do that again. Create query wizard. They only instructed us to show athlete and gender, but we need the events and the records fields as well to be able to actually complete the question. So let's just call it the right name. And let's try. All right, so let's go through the instructions again. Display only the athletes and the gender of the athlete. I'm going to leave that for last, and I'll show you why. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to display all the athletes that participated in swimming who has set a record. Now, I'm going to go to my design view for this. You have to do everything on this in this view. Trust me, you can't filter or sort anything over here. You do not get a single mark for your effort. All of your all of your actions that you need to complete in a query has to be in the design view unless they explicitly state you will need to do something else. All right, so it has to be the swimming event. Let's type in swimming and test whether it works. Excellent. Now we want all of those who set a record. So a record, this type of data that's captured over here is a yes or no field. So I'm just going to type in yes. I'm typing it on the same row because we want everyone who swam who set a record. So both of these values need to be true. That's why I'm putting it on the same row. And I'm not putting parentheses around yes because yes in this case is a value. It's not actually the actual words. This can be -1. This can be on. It can be, there are so many varieties that you can actually put in there. It doesn't have to be the actual word yes in parentheses because it contains a value, not a word. All right, so now I have the correct athletes. Now there are two more things that I need to do. They said I need to sort the query in descending order to the athletes. So athletes sort descending. And lastly, they said only display the athlete and the gender of the athlete. So I'm going to remove these two now that I've tested that it actually works. You can't remove these before you've tested, otherwise you're really playing with fire. Right, save and close. 5.4. Open the query 5.4 query and change the query to display as shown in the example below. All right. So over here we have the event repeated, the gender repeated, and net worth of something, probably the athlete's net worth. Alright, so display the average net worth of all the males in the various items. And then we're going to use a function in the datasheet view, but let's leave that for later. Let's just first do this one. So do you see I've got 3 fields here: event, gender, and average of net worth. And here I have 3 fields: event, gender, and it only says net worth. It doesn't say average of net worth. So because basically this is a summary query, they call it an aggregate query. We're making a summary of the average of the worth of all the male athletes, all the male participants in athletics, all the male participants in cycling, etc. So this is not something you can do by adding a calculated field. You need to go to your design view, switch on your totals so that you have a grouping option. And you'll see all the fields where the name stays the same. The name hasn't been changed. These were grouped. Okay, that's my trick. These were grouped if the name is the same as the one that you have. The one where the name changes, 1 or 2 where the name changes, you'll see what function was done in the beginning. In this case, they actually told us what function they did, average. So this is the only field where I need to go apply a different function rather than just leave it by the general grouping. So event is grouped, gender is grouped, net worth should not be grouped, it should be averaged. And you'll see if I go back to my datasheet view now, it actually changed the name of the field and it now says average of net worth. Alright, but we only wanted male, so I'm going to go back and just enter in my gender a criteria for M. There you go. Now we're close to what we need. The last step we need to do is we need to use a function in the datasheet view to display the total of the average of the net worth amounts. So this little bit over here. And this one they specifically said we're going to use the datasheet view for that. So the total that we switched on in the design view enabled us to do specific groupings and make an aggregate query where we can basically do a summary of different fields. It's just like grouping in reports almost. Alright, so this case we want to do datasheet view and we need to show the total over here, or the sum of it, hey? So I'm going to switch on totals in my datasheet view and you'll see it does a completely different thing. This enables me to actually choose a function, sum, average, min, max, whatever I want to do. And I can just say I want the sum of those. I could do a count over here. It automatically picks up what the type of field is. And then it gives you options to do in each field. So there you go. That's the final answer. It's actually not a very difficult thing to do if you just know how to analyze the screenshot that you've been given. Save and close. 5.5, open query 5.5. Query. Insert a calculated field called months to determine the age of an athlete in months. Display only the athletes older than 480 months. So we're working with query 5.5 and we're obviously going to use the date of birth field. So you can start a calculated field in 2 ways. Personally, you can, well, let me show you. You can either make this larger and then have enough space to type, or you can right click and go to zoom and actually set the font to a size that's nice and comfortable for you to be able to read and then type your full function over here. So we're going to start with the name of the field called month, or months they said, I think, with a colon after that. Now, to determine the number of months that someone's old, let's just first figure out how many days this person is old. So to do that, we need to find out how old he is today. So I can't use the function today in Access. I need to use the function date. Or I could have used now. But you'll see I have this open and closed bracket, round brackets anyway. So today's date minus the date of birth. Now you'll see you don't actually have to put the square brackets around the field if you're using 2018. It does that automatically as long as there is not a space in the field's name. And I don't think I've ever seen a final exam where they've got a space in the name in the data. So just be safe, but just so you know, you have to have square brackets around the field name, but in Access 2016 it adds that automatically. So let's see what we've ended up with now. All right, so that's obviously not how many months everyone is old. That's how many days they are old, hey? So let's go back, and we need to convert these days now to months. Now, how many days are in a month? That depends. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 31, sometimes it's 28. So, because there isn't a fixed date, we actually have to do a conversion twice. We need to do a conversion where we first convert it to years, and then we know how many months are in each year. It's specifically 12. That never varies. So we want to take the full answer of the function that we have at the moment, or the formula. So to get the full answer of the formula, I put brackets around the whole answer divided by 365. That's how many days there are in a year. If you want to be specific, which is always better, it's 0.25 because of the one extra day every 4 years, but they mark both correct. So there we have the number of years that this person is old. To get that back to months, we then times by 12. There you go. All right. Now, lastly, what we need to do is we need to then say we want older than 480. So that's greater than 480. All right. Now, it wouldn't necessarily show you the months in an integer number or a whole number, whatever you'd like to call it. It depends on what you set on your property sheet. Now, I tried this earlier, but then I actually forgot to put the criteria in, so I've re-recorded it. But I see it remembered my format that I set. I set the format to fixed and put a decimal place 0 so that I could have these integer numbers. If I didn't do that, it would have given me months together with a very long decimal, and that was fine. You would have gotten all your marks like that anyway. 5.6. Open the Report 5.6 report in Design View and do the following. So lots of people completely freaked out because they opened the report and they didn't listen to the instruction. They're like, oh, it doesn't work. It does work. You were supposed to open it in Design View. So right click, go to Design View. There you go. It does work. All right. Change the grouping to gender and ensure that the group header will always display the text gender. All right, so to change the grouping, I need to switch on group and sort. And then I'm not adding a new group, I'm changing the grouping that there already is to be gender. Okay, that's changing the grouping. And it said that it needs to always display the text gender. Now, here we have a little text box that they've already given to us, but it's a trap. Because if you look at your property sheet, this is a text box, not a label. So a text box can only refer to a dynamic value that it either gets from another table or from some other calculation, and we don't want that. We just want the simple text gender to show. So I need to use a label and insert the text gender. Okay, it gives me that little error message because this label is not linked to any other text box. I'm just going to say okay, and you'll see it works. There you go. All right. Now, add a calculation in the group footer to determine how many athletes have a net worth of less than 10,000 Rand. Or 10,000. Don't know if it's Rand. All right. Now, the first time I saw this, I also thought I'm going to die. What on earth is this? I've never seen this before. But they give us a hint. Make use of the count if function. And it gives me the entire syntax that I need to use. I'm literally going to copy that. You were supposed to copy that exactly as it is and just add the little test in there. It's actually not as difficult as you might think. All right, so we need to add a calculation to the group footer to determine how many athletes have a net worth of less than 10,000. All right, so here they've already given me the text box that is used for a function in the group footer. I'm going to insert my function over there. Any function in a report needs to start with an equals. I'm going to paste that whole thing. It literally needs to look exactly like that. And for that, I think you got something like 2 or 3 marks. I think 2 marks. The one for adding the beginning and the other one for the end. But all we need to change is this ellipse in the middle. And the test we need to do is whether the athlete's net worth is less than 10,000. 10 million, 10,000? I can't remember now suddenly. 10 million, sorry. All right, so to do that, we're typing the function or the field name, net worth. I'm just going to play it safe and put in the square brackets myself. It would have worked even if I hadn't, because it doesn't have a space in it. So if net worth is less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There you go. That was it. You know how an if works. An if starts with some kind of logical test. That was all that you had to enter, the logical test. This is what an if looks like in Access. And this is how a count if actually works. You can't actually get a count if. It just counts it if it adheres to this test. But you don't have to worry about that. They gave you a very, very weird foreign function that you've never seen before, but they actually gave you everything you needed to do it. Because you need to know how an if works. An if has a test, a logical test, and that was all you had to enter. That was extra to what they'd already given you.